1950, a British magician by the name of David Berglas created what is now referred to as the holy grail of card magic, known as the Berglas Effect. This particular card effect is a version of a classic plot in magic called any card at any number, or as we magicians know it, A-can. The idea was simple. A spectator would name any playing card, for example the 2 of hearts, and another spectator would name a number between 1 to 52, say 18. The spectator then picks up the deck and deals to the 18th card, and there it will be the 2 of hearts. Now, A-can has been around since the 1700s, and magicians have created hundreds, if not thousands of different variations of this effect. With that said, most, if not all versions have one thing in common. The magician touches the deck at some point. It might appear innocent, but the cards are always touched. All except one. David Berglas's version, which made him a legend amongst magicians and a career that spanned over 6 decades.
That was Singapore magician Jeremy Tan talking about the holy grail of card magic, the famous Berglas Effect. Now that's just one example of many magicians around the world who've had a renewed interest in a classic old plot of card magic called any card at any number. And although many of these performers call their versions the Berglas Effect, they don't actually follow the strict rules and criteria that I listed when I performed my version on the Michael Parkinson show here in the UK. Now, I've known David Berglas for over 30 years, and during that time I've seen him create an absolute international sensation with his effect. So much so that recently the hugely prestigious and widely read publication, the New York Times, took an interest in David's effect. They wanted to know why a card trick was so unusual and so unique. I think it's the first time that such a major publication has devoted an entire page to what is, in essence, a card trick. So they sent New York Times reporter David Segal to North London to interview David Berglas. And this is what they wrote, read on this occasion by the ever-popular card magician Laura London.
The headline reads, "The mystery of magic's greatest card trick." At 94, magician David Berglas says that his renowned effect can't be taught. But is he telling the truth? In the 1950s, the British magician David Berglas started refining a trick that came to be known as the Holy Grail of card magic. To this day, nobody is quite sure how he did it. The New York Times reporter David Segal went to interview David Berglas, and this is what he wrote. "I decided to visit him in his North London home in Barnet. His wife Ruth, whom he married 64 years ago, opened the door and led me past a staircase festooned with vintage posters from the British variety theatres where he had performed in the 1950s and 60s. At the end of the hall stood Mr. Berglas. He walks aided by a cane and speaks in a refined British accent that carries no hint of his pre-World War II childhood in Germany. He has a white goatee and a pair of dark eyebrows hovering like hawk wings over his eyes. If he had a cameo in a film, he'd be credited as the senior wizard. "My career ended more than 20 years ago," he said. "Though I always say I didn't retire. I retreated." Decades into his retirement, he has revealed just about every secret in his long and storied career. This includes in 1954 that he made a grand piano vanish in a London hotel banquet room filled with guests. The audience's focus was momentarily distracted and turned around in time to see a pianist who seemed to be playing the instrument just moments earlier fall face down on the floor.
David has always been a master of creating mystery, and the vanishing piano was a great example of that. Even now, when David lectures or does a speaking event, he's always asked to explain exactly how that piano managed to disappear. Now, throughout his career, he's been able to create some incredible, unique mysteries. For example, the picture post challenge, where David managed to find a Chinese slipper that was hidden somewhere in London. And another stunt was driving through the streets of London while completely blindfolded. And something he was very famous for was a fantastic picture duplication, where somebody was thinking of a drawing that they made, and that person was thousands of feet up in an aircraft. And David hops onto a motorbike on Southport Beach, whizzes around and draws the picture that the person's thinking of, which they can see from the air. So he really is a master of impossibility.
But even now, on this subject of Mr. Berglas's famous effect is raised, he remains as cryptic as ever. David says, "It's not a secret I could give to anyone because it's not a secret as such. It's like asking a musician who can improvise to teach you his improvisation, which of course he can't."
The Berglas Effect was named by well-known American magician, writer and researcher John Rackabalmer in his book At the Card Table. Now, Rackabalmer wanted to emphasize the difference between any card at any number and the Berglas Effect. You see, there are many magicians in the world that have a version of any card at any number, but at some point they will always touch the cards. And this is what Rackabalmer wanted to emphasize, the fact that the Berglas Effect is when the performer does not touch the cards. It also fulfills 4 strict criteria. Number 1, the deck of cards is on view before the performance begins. Number 2, anyone can freely name any card. Number 3, anyone can freely name a number between 1 and 52. And criteria number 4 is that someone other than the performer counts down to the chosen number. The performer does not touch the cards. And of course, all the people involved are not Confederates or stooges.
He would place the cards on the table, and he didn't handle them again until after the revelation and during the applause. There was no sleight of hand, no hint of shenanigans. It was both effortless and boggling. Among magicians around the world, his touchless any card at any number is one of the most talked about and puzzled over tricks in history. It was eventually labelled the Berglas Effect, and helped make its creator's reputation in a career that spanned over 6 decades.
Over the years, many magicians have tried to simply explain the Berglas Effect using some very straightforward methods. For example, that David always uses Confederates or stooges, that the effect is somehow set up, or that it's actually just something that happens once in a blue moon, something that happens by chance maybe. Well, let me point a couple of things out. First of all, David was a working pro. He performed in London theatres 7 nights a week, and the Berglas Effect was something he did every single night. David worked on cruise ships and at corporate events, and if he was using Confederates or stooges, particularly on cruise ships, that sort of thing would spread like wildfire. You know, people would know. It's such a contained environment, people would know if something wasn't quite right. The reality is David performs this all the time, and as he says himself, it's something that's unique, it's difficult to teach, it's something that is uniquely David Berglas.
It's a bit like accusing an athlete of taking steroids. It's considered a form of cheating. Mr. Berglas has always and categorically denied using a stooge for this effect. And no one has ever stepped forward to say, "I stooged for the guy." Further, over the years, a number of well-known magicians have reported private, one-on-one performances of the Berglas Effect that left them stupefied. The magician and mentalist Professor Barry Richardson, for instance, described a 1977 visit to Mr. Berglas's home in his book for magicians, Theatre of the Mind. He wrote, "I was asked for a card and a number and settled on the 7 of hearts and 42. After that, he motioned me into his study and pointed to a deck of cards on his desk. When I counted down to the 42nd card, I discovered the 7 of hearts. Barry Richardson said that the experience was chilling.
Many famous magicians and performers have witnessed the Berglas effect over the years. You just heard Laura then reading about Professor Barry Richardson when he recounted when he saw it in 1977. But what's interesting is that Professor Barry Richardson also wrote a book called The Theatre of the Mind. And 3 years later, he also witnesses the Berglas effect again under very, very different conditions. And he wrote about it in this book, so let me read it to you. So 3 years later, David was driving me around London when he casually asked me to name any card. I said the 4 of spades, and I knew what was coming next. And I said the number 25, before he even asked. He invited me to open the glove compartment and remove a deck of cards that was in there amongst his maps. When I counted to my chosen number, I found my card. Perplexing indeed.
He has led an event-stuffed life. At age 10, he sat not far from Adolf Hitler during the 1936 Berlin Olympics and watched Jesse Owens win 3 of his 4 gold medals. He and his family managed to escape from Germany 2 years later, and he met Sigmund Freud in a London hotel which was popular with Europe's refugees. Towards the end of the war, he served with the US military in a division of the intelligence unit, helping to censor Nazi-sympathizing media and communications in Germany. On his return to London, he discovered magic in his early 20s. I was completely fascinated by it, he said. Every night of the week he attended a different magic club, and at the weekends he went to see variety shows. He became a full-time professional magician in 1953. And 2 years later, in 1955, he was the first magician to have his own BBC television series, Meet David Berglas, with an astounding 19.5 million viewers. He performed for audiences as varied as Winston Churchill to fans of the Rolling Stones, for whom he once served as an opening act.
Yes, David has had an extraordinary life. He's travelled all over the world and has met many, many influential people, politicians, royalty, celebrities, and meeting all of these different people have given him fantastic opportunities to perform the Berglas effect for some of the most famous people in the world.
He debuted what became known as the Berglas Effect in 1953. Most magicians asked spectators to physically pick a card from the deck, but he was far more intrigued by asking them to simply think of a card and then name it out loud. Mr. Berglas suddenly turned to me and said, "By the way, casually mention a card because I'm always interested in what people say. Mention a card now." I chose the 7 of diamonds. There was a long pause. "And if I asked you to name a number?" 44, I said. He nodded and the conversation returned to his biography. It seemed in the moment like he was simply conducting a poll to divine popular cards and numbers. Then I remembered an anecdote related by Steve Cohen, a magician who had performed for years at the Waldorf Astoria in New York. He described how in 2002, during a visit to London, he got a ride from Mr. Berglas to an underground station after a night out of dinner and card tricks. As the two neared the train, Mr. Cohen said that the next time they met, he'd love to see Mr. Berglas's version of any card at any number. With the car parked, Mr. Berglas turned serious. "Remember," he told Mr. Cohen, "that you were the one who initiated this. You asked me to show this to you." He added that Mr. Cohen would remember what was about to happen for the rest of his life. Mr. Cohen was asked to step out of the car, pick up David's jacket, which was lying on the back seat, check that there was only 1 pack of cards, when he took them out, unbelievably, the chosen card he had requested was facing him. It didn't escape Mr. Cohen's notice that technically this was not a traditional any card at any number. He wasn't asked for a number. But it's not about that. The best part of his performance, Mr. Cohen said in a recent phone interview, was the framing. Well, that, along with the bold assertion that what happened next would never be forgotten. It's ingenious, Mr. Cohen said. It's almost epoch-making. You're planting a landmark in people's heads that showmanship really is the key to a story.
This is the kind of outcome that David is constantly working for. He really understands how to create an expectant atmosphere that builds and builds and builds, carrying through the effect itself and even through the revelation. It is all about the presentation and not the method. And it's this ability, more than any other, that has enhanced his international reputation.
On the chance that Mr. Berglas was waiting for an invitation to demonstrate his any card at any number, as he might have been with Mr. Cohen, I summoned the nerve to ask for a performance. This was a mistake. No, he said flatly. I don't need to prove myself, not to you or anyone else. He pivoted quickly from irked to indignant. For somebody to come in here and ask me to perform, at my age, I think it's out of the question. It makes me feel strange that you even feel the need to ask that. It puts everything on a different footing. Then he got angrier. With evident pique, he asked me to perform a trick for him, suggesting that this request might give me a sense of his umbrage. I apologized and explained that I had the Steve Cohen story in mind. A few minutes later, for reasons that I can't explain, he softened. There's a drawer behind you, he said. There are some cards in there which I haven't touched in a long time. I turned and opened the drawer. Inside I saw 3 decks. Time began to slow down. I placed the decks in the middle of the table. He didn't touch them. Choose one of these, he said. I picked one. Open it and place it face down in front of you. What was the card and the number you mentioned? 7 of diamonds and 44, I said. I'll take a chance, he said. I might be off by 2. I think there's some jokers in there. I dealt the cards myself, one at a time, face up. By the time I reached the 20th card without seeing the 7 in diamonds, I felt this growing incredulity. When I reached the 30th, I felt the stirrings of astonishment. By the 39th card, I was giddy. 40, 41, 42. I turned over the 43rd card. It was the 7 of diamonds. I stared at it both gobsmacked and baffled. Gobsmacked because it was wildly improbable that he'd come so close, but baffled because it wasn't spot on. One off, Mr. Berglas said evenly. He didn't try to sell the 43 as a triumph. On the contrary, he said that in lectures to magicians, he always told his audience that one off isn't quite close enough.
That's just another example of the numerous reports that I've heard about and I've witnessed. I've seen David perform this so many times, and although the reports may differ slightly, they always have the same staggering results.
I left his house in a muddle, and I have returned to that muddle every time I think of this performance. Off by 1 seems on some level more perplexing than nailing it. Off by 1 implies that there is nothing automatic about this any card at any number, that it isn't a contraption that simply works when deployed. It's more like archery, which requires practice and concentration and can end with something other than a bullseye. I ran these ideas by Aaron Fisher, a highly regarded American magician who did a commentary in July on his YouTube channel of an old live show by Mr. Berglas. Mr. Fisher said that he didn't know what to make of the 43 either. But he noted that Mr. Berglas is not renowned for his dazzling sleight of hand. He messes with minds, not decks, Mr. Fisher said.
David's approach and presentations are really unique. I think it's incredibly difficult to duplicate exactly what he does, if not impossible, because everything that David does is uniquely him, and he is a master of showmanship.
None of this resolved the stooge question. Mr. Berglas may have a number of different methods depending on the circumstances. He never knows what he's going to do before he does it, Richard Kaufman writes in The Berglas Effects, the book that's just behind me. The Berglas Effects, note the plural, a lengthy book for magicians that explains every card trick in the Berglas canon, with one very notable exception. The book suggests that Mr. Berglas is nothing if not a masterful improviser and born gambler. What seems like a cohesive performance is actually a high-wire display of spontaneity with a heavy overlay of psychological manipulation. In hindsight, it seems likely that his anger was part of the show, a framing device. He said, "I don't need to prove myself," which is just a different, more contentious version of, "You'll never forget what is going to happen next." Once you've been told that a demonstration is out of the question, you're ready to leave empty-handed. Compared to nothing, Off by One isn't just thrillingly close, it's amazing.
The fact that this card miracle had its own full-page article in probably the most influential newspaper in the world, the New York Times, just shows you the impact that the Berglas Effect has had and what a tremendous impression it's made on the international magic community. We're now going to show you clips of David performing the effect in different environments, in different ways, and in different venues. The first clip was filmed in the early 1990s in London at the prestigious Magic Circle. It was at an event where many of the world's top magicians had come together to discuss the history of our art. The final speaker of the day was Reverend Roger Crossway, a tremendously well-respected card researcher and card magician. He was talking about Think a Card, a technique that goes back many, many hundreds of years, and he was discussing who he thought were the masters of the technique through the ages, until he came to the modern era, when he introduced who he thought was the modern master of the technique, David Berglas. He then invites David to an impromptu performance, much to the surprise of David. I think you're really going to enjoy this.
The essence of my effect is that it's not restricted to any number of cards. I see some of the younger magicians today trying to do think of a card. They do it very successfully, but they do restrict you to just a handful of cards. And my aim right at the beginning was to show as much of a fan as possible so that you could see all the cards, borrowed deck if possible, and people look at the cards. Now it's very strange me standing here when my methods have just been exposed on that screen by saying you follow the gaze of a person. But I have so many variations that if somebody were to say, magicians of course, lay people don't say that, well, you must be watching the eyes. Well, I have another method where they can stand with their back towards me, look at the cards and think of one, and I'll find it. And one of the secrets is to be able to find a card quickly. So in order to demonstrate, I will not be giving you a show as such, but just a demonstration to perhaps underline some of the points Roger's made, and to try and live up to my own reputation, which is not so easy this morning. So could I have two gentlemen who have not met me before, if possible, or if they have, that the rest of you will know that they're not working with me. So may I have two gentlemen? Yes, there's one there, and gentleman there's fine, coming up. Thank you. How are you? David. Wonderful name. Oh, not such a good name. No, it's a terrific name for you. This gentleman did speak to me beforehand. It's so boring to say we haven't arranged anything, because I usually say to my audience when I do something impossible, of course, if we had arranged something, I've said, we've not arranged anything, what would he say? He said, no. So it's a waste of time asking that, isn't it? So I never do. But what we do to try and involve other people in the audience, I'll ask David here, who I really have met before, to point to any lady or gentleman in the audience. Just point to any lady or gentleman in the audience. Lady there will happen to know, but I didn't know that you were going to point to her. Could I ask you, Elizabeth, to call out the playing card, any card that comes to your mind now?
7 of diamonds.
Fine. Do you want to give me a number? Any number?
22.
No, that was your father's number.
Oh, 32.
Right. I said that because that plane ride that Roger described was actually not to America. We were coming back from one of my television series in Holland, and Peter had been my guest on that. And the interesting part of that write-up was that all these people who've been writing about the effect have always said, of course, it's something to do with the bag that he was carrying. And they've tried to work out methods where you have 52 packs in your bag. And John Rackenbauer then said he could improve on that because he only uses 26 packs. But that's complicated because I've traveled to a lot of places with just one little pack. Anyway, we'll come back to that, but I'm going to ask you to point to someone else, please, if you would, just anywhere.
Oh, that gentleman.
Fine, that's Bob. I don't know him either. I'm afraid there's only two people in the audience that don't know. Bob, mention a card that comes to your mind, any card you like.
3 of clubs.
3 of clubs. Would you like to give me a number?
8.
8. Okay. And you decide now. We have, of course you're going to be polite, but you don't have to be. You don't have to remember the cards, but we have 2 people who mentioned a card. Which one shall we start with?
The last one.
The last one. Okay. And the number he gave me, can you remember?
8.
And the card?
Forgotten.
Okay, fair enough. Why should you remember? That's my job. You said the 3 of clubs, didn't you? Do you want to change your mind? Sure? Okay. One last choice. Would you point to any other lady or gentleman? Just point anywhere. Amy? What's your name, Amy? Amy, would you say from the top or the bottom of the pack?
From the bottom.
Right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the multiple choice is important. I get somebody up. Why don't I ask him to mention a card? Because he will go out and say there was something arranged between them. But by involving a few other people, usually one card, one number, one position, you get this multiple choice. So if I went over to that pack now, took it out of the box, and you said from the bottom counted 8 cards, and we would then see the 3 of clubs, that would be a pretty good trick, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it?
Yes.
Be a miracle. Which is what we're paid to do. But if this young man, David, did it, it'd be better, wouldn't it? Huh? Can you manage? Okay, David, will you do me a favor? Show your hands out and show you're not palming the cards. That's a technical term for hiding the card, right? He's not. Take the cards out of the box. Put them any way you like, because the bottom is underneath, the top's there, but if you want to count, you can turn them around the other way. Which is the bottom, which is the top? All right, so turn them around the other way, then you can count from there. That's the bottom. Could I have the case so it's not in your way? Thank you. And you count deliberately the number that Bob over there said, which was 8. The card that he said, which was a 3 of clubs. And Amy decided to choose that we count from bottom. So would you do that one at a time? Just turn them over as you do. That's card number 1. You count them nice and loud. Go ahead.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I saw one joker. Would you ignore that? One more. What are you looking at? Pick it up. Show it to the others. They don't believe you.
There you've seen a great example of the Berglas effect, with multiple choices. 2 cards get called out, then 2 numbers get called out. And then a spectator decides which of those 2 numbers is actually going to be used for the effect. And just before the cards are dealt, someone decides whether they're dealt from the top or from the bottom of the deck. I think it's only when someone points out these conditions, these details, that you get to appreciate why the Berglas effect is so impossible and why it's gained this legendary status. It's always interesting listening and watching other professionals talk about the Berglas effect. In America, there's an online group that meets regularly to discuss famous performers and their work. They're called the Conjuring Community Club. They are very knowledgeable, very experienced performers, and we're going to show you a clip of them discussing David and his famous work.
Hello everybody. Today we're going to be watching a complete set of David Berglas live in front of a real audience, really doing the thing. For those of you who don't know, David Berglas is absolutely famous, infamous as really just a creator of some of the most impossible effects of all time. And today we're going to get a chance to see if it's real or if it's conjecture. Let's see what's going on. Where are we going to watch? This is from 2010.
Can you guys see the video?
Oh,
yes. All right, let's watch the very best of David Berglas.
Well, as I said this afternoon, it's all about cards. So I'm going to ask somebody just to call out a card, please.
It's spades.
That's a very popular card. A lot of people call it out. The 8 of spades. And if I reach into my pocket, I should be able to pick out 8 of spades. There we are. Thank you. Yeah, I always carry one big card there, and just happens to be the one you called, right? You're shaking your head. Did you not say 8 of spades? What did you say?
I went for the ace.
Ace?
Ace, yeah.
I thought you said 8 of spades. I'm not supposed to be wrong up here. Excuse me 1 second. How's that? Do you know, that is so hard, even I don't know how that's done. I'm going to show you another one now. Oh, you saw the other side. You're not supposed to see it. Let me put it away, because that's just a little gag. We're going to be a little more serious now. So I'm going to ask somebody, let's say, lady in the second row, one of you, would you call a card, please?
Queen of Hearts.
Queen of Hearts. And could you give me a number, please?
25.
Go on.
25.
Fine, thank you. Would one of you two be willing to come up to help me? Would you hold the cards a minute and give her a nice round of applause? The idea now is for you to find the card that you called. You said
Queen of Hearts.
Queen of Hearts. And the number, was it you or you called the number?
25.
Right, put the cards on the table. The idea is for me to try and find that card at the 25th position without actually touching the cards. I can't do it, so I hope you can. Would you just, one at a time, count the cards face up onto the table?
Like this.
Yes, and we'll count loud if you would.
6,
No, no, just say that's one and that's two.
Okay.
And just keep them like that. Fine.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Are you checking?
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
That's 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. That's what you asked for. What card is that? He showed the audience a Queen of Hearts. Thank you. Take a bow. Take a bow. Fantastic.
All right.
So, pretty fascinating. First thing I guess we ought to be aware of, right, is that we are definitely watching this with magicians, and we're watching a still camera that is holding on him that whole time. And I don't know, I was, well, let's start with the first effect, right?
Well, the first effect, it certainly serves an important purpose, right? Like, let's that whole I'm super mind reader magician guy here to read your minds. Let that just be shattered right in the beginning, so that he sort of gets knocked down a peg. So he's like a normal guy that's going to do this card magic stuff, right? He's doing a trick, and it's clearly a trick. Like, that was the purpose of that first effect, was like, I'm doing a trick, and you guys know how I did this trick when it's over, right? So that now he's just a guy, and now this other stuff is going to be not that, apparently, right? I think it's a very important device.
What I was going to say is that coming out and doing a mentalism show like is pretty much, that's what he does, right? It's really hard to open that. It's really hard to come out to the audience, because you got to get them to like you, and like that, it's true no matter what you do, you got to give them a like in the first 30 seconds. And so I think that trick really takes him a long way to doing that. I think it makes him very humanizing, and
All right, let's keep trucking.
Thank you very much, David. Just one question. How did you do that? No, I think that's fantastic. I'm going to ask for another lady, or in fact, two ladies or two gentlemen, or one of each, to come up to help me. But I recognize you.
Yes, how are you?
Yes, nice to see you.
And you?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Linda Rusali.
Oh, they know.
Which one you?
My daughter goes to this school, you see.
Ah, so most of them knew. And this year, Sam. Nice to meet you. How are you? Good. You play cards?
Yeah, a little bit.
The way I found these cards, you can see all the cards. That's 54 because there are two jokers are standing next to me right there. 52 cards, two jokers. Linda, I'm going to ask you to, by the way, the fact that we've met before, there's nothing arranged between us.
Well, it was about 25 years ago, wasn't it?
It's at least, well, we could have arranged something 25
Oh, no,
years
no.
ago. Sam wasn't around then. 54 cards. Linda, come a little closer. Just look at the card, think of one, and remember, please.
Okay.
Just one card. You have one of these. What card are you actually thinking of?
The Four of Hearts.
Did you see it or just say it?
I saw it.
Because I don't want to touch the cards. Would you put them on the table, put them nice and straight? When you looked at the card, I know you won't know exactly, but approximately whereabouts was it?
Towards that side of the deck as you were holding
I
it.
see. Would you say more than halfway or?
Yeah, more than halfway.
More than halfway. As I said before, I try and do things without touching the cards now, and I've got to try and get her card to get to the top. Now I'm estimating it was about 27 cards in. At this moment, you won't believe it, but it's already 14 from the top now. You're not watching closely. It's now 8.
Oh.
You didn't see that? We'll get to it. Second now. It really is the second card now. That wouldn't be bad, would it?
No.
But I wanted to go to the top. Sam, have a look at the top card. But what was the card you wanted again?
The Four of Hearts.
Have a look at that one.
No. It's not.
Show it to the others. Would you just change places with Sam for a moment?
was pretty good, wasn't it?
That was more
That's it. That's what it's all about right there. That's worth the price of admission.
Yeah, yeah.
He did that from a fan. He showed a fan to that lady, and then he estimated, and he put those cards. He was ready to put the cards on the table. He said, "What was the card you picked?" He went, "That's yeah." He set those cards down, right? Like he nailed that one. Like 100%. He nailed that one. Like that's what it's about. That's the whole game right there.
like some of you have seen that he cut the deck, but he cut the deck before she named the card, right?
Yeah.
And he still held them, but you know.
He set those right down. He nailed that one like 100%.
And just look through them like this. Look, you look through them like that, and once you do that, you think of one card. And once you've got one, remember, it's very important you remember it. You have one? I'll have the cards from you. Sam, you changed your mind twice.
I did.
Yeah, I know. You don't have to tell me. Do you want the first or the second card you thought of?
The first card.
Can you remember the second one as well?
Yes.
What was it?
It was the 2 of hearts.
And what was the first one?
The 3 of diamonds.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, take the cards from me. I don't want to touch them. Because it's now my job to try and find the card again without touching the cards. Now remember, he didn't take a card. He just looked at them and he thought of one. And he thought of remind me?
The first one was the 3 of diamonds.
Okay. Then he changed his mind. But I have to find the card he thought of first. And I'm trying to get it to go to the top. It's not as easy as you think. In fact, I failed. It didn't work at all. I'm afraid the card isn't at the top now. It's at the bottom. Have a look. Turn the cards around.
Oh, you are.
Remember, we have children here, so be careful what you say, right?
The reason that is really incredible is I thought of that card before I even picked the deck from your hand.
That's my job. Thanks. Thanks for coming out. Give them a nice round of applause. Thank you. Excuse me. Sam, what did you say just as you were leaving?
That was amazing.
A little louder.
That was amazing.
Thank you very much.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Interesting. I would have to say that's pretty incredible there, where he was definitely manipulating the situation to his benefit, and it didn't seem like that at the end. I mean,
no,
you had to be paying pretty close attention to even see the strategies he was applying, and they're invisible, and they're very.
This is the highest level of all of this kind of work. This guy is the tops, right? I mean, this is amazing. This is amazing stuff.
People always think that I manipulate the cards, so we're going to do it in a much fairer way. There are the cards. Here's the audience. We'll have somebody else call a card and a number. So could I have somebody near the front just call a number, please?
24.
That's very similar to 25.
24.
24, all right. Could I ask you to point to somebody else? Lady there. Would you mention a card now, please?
Aloud.
Aloud, so I can hear it.
4 of diamonds.
4 of diamonds.
Yeah.
Okay, and the number was 24. Okay. I said that you suspect things when I touch cards. There's a brand new deck of cards right there. I'm going to ask you to open it up, please. Take it out of the box. Put it face down on the table. We won't need the box. And because they don't trust you any more than they trust me, show your hands empty like that. That's to show that he's not holding any cards beforehand. The number we had called was 24. The card was a 4 of diamonds. And I will now try and get to the 4 of diamonds simply by counting the 24th card. Of course, if I did it, you would suspect sleight of hand. But this young man, I don't think, has much sleight of hand knowledge, have you? Any? Good, that helps. Would you count those cards very carefully, one at a time, onto the table, aloud so we can hear you?
To what?
To what? We had a number called to
24.
24, that'll be fine. You still want 24?
Yeah.
And you still want the 4 of diamonds. Do you want to change your mind?
No.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay, because if you change your mind, the card will change.
4 of diamonds.
Oof, very insistent. All right, here we go. One at a time. 1, 2, you count.
3, 4, 5.
Don't have to lean towards me, I'll come to you.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22,
23, 24. What is it?
4 of diamonds.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a giggler.
There
right
it is. That's it.
That's the Berglas
That's
effect.
that right
There
there.
you got
Berglas effect, right. You never know when it's going to happen. But that was it. It just happened.
Yeah. So
Not
that
much
one
else to say. That was it.
Pretty awesome.
That one will boggle you. You may stay up at night and say, you know, how you may replay that in your head. But let me replay it for you real quick. He had someone call a number. He didn't change it. He asked someone to name a card. He didn't even try to change it. He had his spectator open that pack of cards and count down to the number, and there was the card. That was it. It was pretty simple and straightforward. And if you try to devise a method out of that, it's in there, but it's really, really hard to peel out. It's really hard.
And that's what you just saw. That's the story that you hear or that you read when people talk about. I met David Berglas and he did a card trick for me, and it's the one that's the legend. It's that's the way it's always described. He told me to just go grab a deck. He had a bowl full of decks, and I grabbed a deck out of there, and he said, name a number and name a card. And then I did it, and it was that. And I have no idea. He didn't do anything. It was just there. Like there's another story of him driving in a car with a guy. They're on a long distance trip. Hey, open up the glove box. I want to show you something. There's a deck of cards in the glove box of the car. He does the thing, and it's that effect. So, yeah, that's it. It's as beautiful as it can be, and I feel as giddy now as when I read the stories or see the footage any other time. It's wonderful. I love it. So good.
These guys are really astute and they are very observant, but they miss out on one vital point. David does ask the audience if they want to change the card or the number. He even says at one point, if you change your mind, the card will change. Now, in this particular incident, the spectator is quite insistent and wants to stay with his original choice. Let's look at that moment once again.
You still want 24?
Yeah.
And you still want the 4 of diamonds. Do you want to change your mind?
No.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay, because if you change your mind, the card will change.
4 of diamonds.
Oof, very insistent. All right, here we go.
Many years after the performance at the Bull Theatre, David was asked to present an evening at the Magic Circle in London. And he decided to perform a completely different version of his effect. In this case, the card was not called out. It was actually selected by someone in the audience using their own pack of cards, shuffling and then cutting to a random card. And the number was chosen in a really surprising way. Take a look.
What I'd like to do actually is to give them a shuffle. You can take the other cards back if you want. Right. Put the cards on the table when you're ready, and give them a cut somewhere, and show me where you've cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay? Right. That's where he's cut. Shuffled cards. I'm now going to take a little board. Okay, would you call out some numbers, please? 5, 7, 9, 3, between 1 and 54, obviously. So 11, 21, 39. 47. 1. 19. We've got 11. 12. You know, there are 54 cards. There are 54 cards in the pack.
58.
Which?
51. 32.
We got it.
17.
Oops. Yeah.
24.
24.
13.
13 and a couple more.
73.
Sorry?
53.
50. I thought you said 73. All right. And one more.
17.
Oh no, two more.
36.
36 and 22. All these numbers, we're going to now choose one in a particular way. Could I ask you to circle about 4 of these? And then write those on the back. Whatever number if you circled, you write in the back nice and large so we can see it.
Okay.
You can take your cards, or these are yours, aren't they? And these are yours?
Yeah.
You can take them, thanks. Just leave yours here for a minute. Are those numbers?
Those are the 4?
Right. Would you point to 2 of these, please? Right, he's pointed to 31, 47, leaving 5 and 32, right?
Mm-hmm.
In case anyone thinks you're working with me,
Yeah.
in any shape or form, point to anyone in the audience.
Me?
Yeah,
Yeah. 5.
I haven't asked you yet. Do you want 5 to stay or be rubbed out?
5 to be rubbed out.
Would you say that's fair? Yes or no?
Yes.
It's very important.
Yes.
Because afterwards you always say, well, he did so and so. What did he do? He did nothing. He wrote down a lot of numbers. He circled some, just 4. He put them on the back. We eliminated 3. We've got 1 number left. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. The number 32, and the card you cut to was it's a long time ago, but
5 of clubs.
5 of clubs. Okay. Again, I'm going to ask you to show your hands empty, and then very deliberately count the number 32, face up onto the table.
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31,
No, put it down.
and 32.
Yeah, I didn't say it would be there. No, I didn't, did I? I didn't say count to 32 for each chosen number and it'll be in your pack. No. Show your hand emptied again. Show the next card to the audience. That's the 5 of clubs. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming up. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for getting the book. Bye. Thanks very much. Take your cards. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thank you for coming up. Appreciate it. Thank you for your help. Thanks. Explain that.
Well, that certainly was different. We're now going to see David performing at one of the coolest magic conventions in the world. This event is not only attended by expert, knowledgeable magicians, but it's also rammed full of young, new, enthusiastic performers, all hoping to see this famous effect performed by the man himself.
I'd like 4 or 5 people come up with their own cards, and preferably if we haven't met or you don't know me, and if you've got your own cards, I'd appreciate if you come up, and just 4 or 5 of you. When you do, could you stand behind the table? Thanks. Mind the glass there. Thank you. I'd like to go over there, and go ahead. That's all right. You can here. And another one?
Yep.
We met? No. No, we didn't. Okay. Just shows you how much I know. Right. How are you?
Good, thank you.
We shake hands. I like to remain friends with people that I'm going to upset. Okay. You keep track of your own cards if you would. Right. As an unusual fan, people always comment that I make an unusual fan. I do that so all the cards are visible. I'm going to ask you to look at the cards and think of one. Just think of one.
Yeah.
You have one of these cards? Obviously you have. You said yes. What was the card you thought of?
7 of diamonds.
Did you see it or just say it?
I saw it.
Can you remember whereabouts it was?
Around a third of the way from the...
Third of the way?
Yeah.
Okay. If it's the top card or the bottom card, I won't claim any success. It'll be a coincidence because I cut them. It's not. If it's the bottom card, again, it would have been a coincidence, and I would have started again. If you'd like to put your finger on your cards, may I just have yours? Thanks very much. All the same cards. This is your box. I haven't said to start yet.
Just taking the jokers out for you.
Why?
Oh, right.
People anticipate. Do you have a favourite card, or just mention one?
The King of Hearts.
All right. I'm going to ask you to look through the cards. So I'm spreading them out, and a very strange thing has happened because all the cards are showing, but you see there's no King of Hearts. Can you see? If you have a good look around, there's King of Clubs, King of Spades, King of Diamonds, and your card's missing, so there's a King of Clubs. It's very strange. There's King of Diamonds, but there's no King of Hearts. So what do you think has happened?
It's disappeared.
No, I think you're missing the card. Again, if it's the top or the bottom. Now, it's not there, is it? We'll have another look. The way I find you can see all the cards, look. There's no King of Hearts.
Should I pick a different one or that?
The same thing would happen. Would you like to just take your cards, look through them, and think of one, and remember it, please?
Okay.
You have one?
I have one, yeah.
Okay. You actually changed your mind once, didn't you? Yeah. Do you want the first or the second card? What was it?
Queen of Clubs.
Did you see it? Just say it.
No, that was the one I saw when I went through them.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll take your word for it. Don't mention the first comes to your mind. Not the first one. Just the next one.
Card.
Yeah.
4 of Clubs.
That was the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Give me a number. Sort of make it difficult somewhere in the middle.
Of?
No, in the middle of the pack somewhere.
32.
32?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the middle of the pack?
Well, 27, 25.
Which one do you want?
25.
25.
That's near the middle of the pack.
Well, it probably is. I just have to see if, what was the card you wanted?
4 of clubs.
4 of clubs, right. Okay, could you just put your finger on there? Have you got your cards?
Yeah.
Ah, good. Joker's back?
Yeah.
Well, we'll take them out. We always work with jokers, especially the one at the end there. Right. Would you like to mention a card to me?
4 of spades.
Okay, and you see, there's the 4 of clubs. If you look around, I can't see the 4 of spades now, can you? 4 of diamonds. I don't want you to think that. No, 4 of diamonds. And again, it was the top card. No, 5 of clubs. So someone is in the deck would be your card, yeah?
Yep.
4 of
4 of spades.
Yeah, put your finger on there. Okay. Can you remember your card? It's a long time ago.
7 of diamonds.
7 diamonds. Look at the top card. What card was missing from you?
The King of Hearts.
King of Hearts? Look at the top card. Scott back. Came back. What did he do with you?
Mine was the Queen of Clubs.
Queen of Clubs? I don't know if I can find it for you. Oh, yeah. And you wanted the...
4 of clubs.
4 of clubs. And what was the number you said?
25.
Okay. And what card were you looking for?
4 of spades.
Look at the top card. This is what they're waiting for. Number's 25. Change it from 32 to 27 to 25. And I said, which one do you really want? And you said,
25.
Why didn't you change it? 32 was a better number for me. No, never mind. Forget it. Would you very carefully, and let me just do one thing for you, makes it easier. Count to 25.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24.
Turn it up. Show to the audience. Thank you. Thank you very much. Take your card. Take your cards in your box.
That was a performance from the Session Convention in 2011, and I'm going to leave you with what happened next. Thank you for watching.
The only place you will see David Berglas do any card at any number is right here at the Session. And we got that on the website already, I'm sure. There is one more thing, and I need to invite some more people back to the stage. First of all, David, but also Andy and Josh, please, ladies and gentlemen.
First of all, we'd like to thank David. The fact that we've got David Berglas at the Session is something we never thought we'd do. So thank you, David, for coming. I know it's been a lot of work for you, and we really appreciate it. And there's one thing we want to do for you. It's something we decided to start at the Session, and that's to have an award. It's a Lifetime Achievement Award. And when we were talking about it, there was only one person they could receive the first ever Session Lifetime Achievement Award, and it's David Berglas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me here.
I hope you enjoy it, yeah?
An inspiration.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.